Good evening, I'm Katerina Georgieva. This is CBC Windsor News. Thanks for joining us. We begin tonight with a seismic shift in Canada's political landscape. After almost a decade in power, Justin Trudeau has announced he is stepping down and that Parliament has been prorogued until March 24th, meaning a Liberal leadership race and a national election are coming this year and coming soon. Ashley Burke has details from Ottawa.
A major moment in Canadian history.
Last night over dinner, I told my kids about the decision that I'm sharing with you today.
The Prime Minister, who's long resisted calls to resign, now says he'll step down.
I intend to resign as party leader, as Prime Minister, after the party selects its next leader.
Justin Trudeau addressing the nation from outside his home at Rideau Cottage, repeatedly describing himself as a fighter.
Every bone in my body has always told me to fight because I care deeply about Canadians.
But staying on as a leader is a fight he couldn't win.
It has become obvious to me with the internal battles that I cannot be the one to carry the Liberal standard into the next election.
Those internal battles bruising and relentless, growing calls from his own MPs to resign only intensifying after last month's stunning resignation of his Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister, Chrystia Freeland.
Despite best efforts to work through it, Parliament has been paralysed for months after what has been the longest session of a minority parliament in Canadian history.
Trudeau said it took the holidays and long talks with his family to come to this decision.
Removing me from the equation as the leader who will fight the next election for the Liberal Party should also decrease the level of polarization that we're seeing right now in the House.
He's now calling for a reset. The Governor-General has approved his request to prorogue Parliament, putting government business on hold until the end of March, while his party holds a competitive race for its next leader.
We have to go in elections.
But opposition parties are vowing to try and bring down the government with non-confidence votes after that.
New Democrats will be voting against this government for an election where Canadians will have a choice.
They want to protect their pensions and paycheck by sweeping their hated leader under the rug months before an election to trick you and then do it all over again.
The Liberals hope Trudeau's departure changes everything and can rescue the party from some of the worst polling it's seen since Trudeau became Liberal leader more than a decade ago and before Canadians head to the polls sometime this year. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
And the impact of the Prime Minister's resignation is being felt in our part of the country as well. CBC's Jennifer LaGrassa has the local reaction.
After Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's notice to resign, we spoke with residents in downtown Windsor. They all told us that this is the right move.
I think it's exciting news because realistically, like in this day and age, like everything's just getting expensive, cost of living, all that kind of stuff. So I feel like him resigning can give like a new sense of hope.
It's about time he resigns. I'm not happy with the way that things are going. The carbon tax, things for seniors is very difficult. Just the whole system has got to go, and we need a conservative leadership.
And if I'm talk about the jobs crisis here, oh damn, there's nothing. They are not creating anything for us.
So you think this will be a good change?
Yeah, it's a good change if we do that right now. So I appreciate it.
I think that he's made the best decision. There was a lot of conflict within the party.
Liberal Windsor-Tecumseh MP Ir Kuzmarchuk, who worked with Trudeau for the last 5 years, says that the news brought mixed emotions. He says Trudeau's government invested a lot into Windsor-Essex, and he pointed to the region's new electric vehicle battery plant and construction of the Gordie Howe International Bridge. Looking ahead, he says that a lot of work that the Liberals put into making life more affordable could be at risk.
This coming election this year will be the most consequential election in the last 50 years of Canada. And it's going to be the most consequential election for our community. You think about all the things that we were able to deliver here for Windsor-Essex, the battery plant, childcare, dental care, National School Food Program, the Canada Disability Benefit, all of those are on the chopping block with a Conservative government.
And Kuzmarchuk says that he does plan on running for re-election. We did also reach out to Essex Conservative MP Chris Lewis. He didn't respond to our request for an interview, but in an email, his spokesperson forwarded a statement that Conservative Party leader Pierre Poilievre posted on social media platform X. Jennifer Lagrassa, CBC News, Windsor.
And Colette Kennedy joins us now for a quick look at weather. But Colette, this is my first time seeing you in 2025, so I got to wish you a Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. I know, I always wonder, what is that time like to the point at which you can't start, keep wishing folks a Happy New Year? We're not
I think
past
we're still
it yet.
in the window. We're good.
I think so too.
So on that note, Colette, give us a quick look outside right now.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So today, I mean, if you were outside at all, and probably you were, those winds out of the north to northeast, much of the day very gusty, at times gusting to nearly 55 kilometers an hour, so making it feel like about -12. Also driving those winds across Lake Huron, giving at times some light snow or some flurries, and that's kind of what we're dealing with tonight and through the overnight. -8 is going to be our low, but feeling like -17, and tomorrow we could have some sun in the morning and then increasing cloudiness into the afternoon. A chilly day ahead and a few chilly days. I'll have more on that coming up.
Sounds good. Thanks, Colette. Let's turn now to Detroit. The city has long had a reputation for crime, not helped by a public shooting at the Eastern Market back in September. But new numbers show that Detroit is making huge strides to turn things around. Jason Vio reports.
The city of Detroit appears to be getting a little bit safer, and that's good news for the many Windsorites who work here or may cross the border to eat, shop, catch a game, or a concert. And the number of homicides in Detroit have dropped so low that these stats haven't been seen since 1965. Now, the city ended 2024 with 203 homicides, and that's down 49 from the year before, according to new numbers released by the city of Detroit. Non-fatal shootings, assaults, carjackings, and other violent crime also continue to drop across the city of Detroit. Mayor Mike Duggan says when he was a prosecutor in 2002, he remembers Detroit police celebrating that there were under 400 homicides. Now that's just over 200. Across the United States, violent crime has dropped slightly, according to the FBI. Detroit's mayor credits the city's drop in crime to partnerships with other local, state, and federal law enforcement. And the city has also been hiring more police officers over the last 2 years, 340 more officers here in Detroit. Jason Vio, CBC News, Detroit.
After the toll of the Canada Post strike on small business owners, many are now bracing for another blow, a hike in postage rates. Dawson Chen takes us through the changes.
Stamps are about to get more expensive, so much so that this Windsor convenience store owner has been warning his customers. If you use stamps regularly, better buy them now. The cost of many types of postage jumps 25% next week.
Everyone's struggling right now, Postage is probably the last thing they're going to think about, but, when it's that much of an increase, just people are surprised and, a little angry that, they look at it as a big money grab.
Stamps in booklets or rolls will cost $1.24 per stamp. That's up from 99 cents. Canada Post announced the price hike last fall, but it takes effect January 13. Rates for U.S. and international mail and registered mail are all going up. Chang's store, PJ's Video Variety, has been open since 1991. He says this increase is the biggest he's seen in decades.
I just hope people don't take it out on clerks and mail carriers and things like that, because it's not their decision, right? It's corporate decisions.
According to Canada Post, the change brings stamp prices closer to the cost of providing service. Over the past 2 decades, mail volume has decreased by 60%, but Canada Post is serving millions more homes. That explanation provides little comfort for one Windsor small business. Kat Pasquatch is the owner of Culture Shock Bead Company, an indigenous bead and crystal store. 3/4 of the company's sales are by mail to rural communities. Pasquatch says she's worried about the coming increase.
They all feel like Band-Aids into a very large problem on our mail service in Canada. And it would be really great to see some actual reform in the way that Canada Post operates. We need reliable, affordable service.
Pasquatch notes that her company was already hurt by the month-long nationwide postal workers strike in November. Dawson Chen, CBC News, Windsor.
Donald Trump's victory is now official. U.S. lawmakers have certified the results of the 2024 presidential election, paving the way for his return to the White House. The peaceful transfer of power was a stark contrast to 4 years ago when some of his supporters stormed Capitol Hill to try and stop Joe Biden's election win from being certified. Katie Simpson has more.
Washington, D.C. is unusually quiet for such an important day, and as you can see, part of the reason why, it's been decked by a snowstorm. A winter weather emergency has been declared. Much of D.C. has been shut down with a few exceptions, and that includes Capitol Hill, where lawmakers certified the results of the 2024 presidential election. It was very routine, very orderly, as these things typically are. At times, there were moments that seemed somewhat uncomfortable, as the entire procedure is led by the vice president. Essentially, Kamala Harris had to stand there and certify her own election loss.
Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida has received 312 votes. Kamala D. Harris of the state of California has received 226 votes.
All over Washington, there really is a noticeable increase in security. Before the snow started falling, barricades were put into place, fences were locked in, and that is because of what happened 4 years ago today, when Donald Trump's supporters violently stormed the Capitol and temporarily halted the certification of his election loss. Those supporters had been fed steady lies and misinformation about the election being stolen from him. That didn't happen this go around. Democrats accepted their loss. And while no one was expecting a repeat of what happened on January 6th in 2021, no one wanted to take any sort of chance. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Washington.
As Katie mentioned in her report there, a massive storm has brought heavy snowfall and freezing temperatures to parts of the United States. At least 4 people have died so far in road accidents, and nearly 2,000 flights have been canceled. Megan Fitzpatrick has more.
A friendly Monday morning snowball fight to start the week for residents in Washington, D.C. The U.S. Capitol was among the cities hit with a major storm that made its way up the East Coast with dumps of snow, ice pellets, high winds, and frigid temperatures.
Coolest thing in the world.
It was 100% fun.
Schools were closed, and so were federal government buildings, with the exception of the U.S. Capitol, where lawmakers couldn't take a snow day. They met to certify November's election results. Airports in D.C. and elsewhere in the storm's path tried to keep the runways clear, but hundreds of flights across the U.S. were still delayed and canceled. Several jurisdictions declared states of emergency, including Kansas, Maryland, Kentucky, and New Jersey. People in that state were taking the weather in stride and stocking up on supplies.
I'm enjoying it. I love it down here. Well, it's a great place for it to snow, especially when you don't see it down here too often.
Yep, this is going to get me through. Yep. I have 80 rolls of toilet paper at home, too, so I'm good.
In Kentucky, where the storm hit Sunday and continued dropping freezing rain on Monday, some 90,000 residents had no power. The governor said they're in a race against time to get it back on.
We've got today and part of tomorrow to get power up to as many Kentuckians as we can, because with wind chill, it's going to get dangerously cold.
The roads were still dangerously slick in that state, and residents were asked to stay off them and stay home. Rescue crews helped more than 200 stranded motorists, and 3 deaths due to accidents are being linked to the treacherous roads. As city and state officials cope with the storm's aftermath, fans of winter were making the most of it.
My daughter lost the boot and lost her hat, but she had fun, so even if she doesn't remember it, it's a good experience for sure.
Megan Fitzpatrick, CBC News, Washington.
We want to give you a quick update on our Make the Season Kind campaign. With your help, we have collected more than 23,000 pounds or 10,000 kilos of food and more than $15,000 in cash donations. And all that goes to support local area food banks. So a huge thanks to all of you for making the campaign a huge success. Stay with us. We'll have more news for you in just a sec. Welcome back. New research shows a dramatic increase in the number of children who are nearsighted and in need of glasses to see distances. Increased screen time may seem like the obvious reason, but there's more to the trend. Mike Crawley takes a closer look.
Keep watching that age. Let me know when it goes blurry, okay?
It's eye exam time for 8-year-old Aiden Chen.
I can't see.
Here at the Waterloo Eye Institute and at clinics like it around the world, optometrists are seeing the growing prevalence of myopia, or nearsightedness, among kids.
Myopia has actually increased dramatically during the periods of COVID, and if it continues on the trajectory, it will hit about 50% in 2050.
You might think the reason for this is perfectly clear: increased screen time, right? Turns out that's not the whole picture.
It's anything that we're doing up close, so it doesn't have to just be screens, it could be reading a book, everything like that.
Thank you.
The research shows a big predictor of childhood myopia is spending too much time indoors.
When we're outside, we're looking far away, so we're relaxing our eyes.
Studies have shown much less myopia among children who spend 2 hours per day outdoors.
It's believed to be related to the intensity of light. So outdoors, in sunshine or even on an overcast day, the lighting is much brighter than what we can do indoors.
Those 2 hours don't have to be consecutive.
Some studies suggest even making sure that the kids go out for recess is really important. And even walking to school.
Of course, outdoor time can take some extra effort during a Canadian winter. This outdoor education centre in Toronto welcomes kids year-round, a welcome break from the classroom.
It makes me feel tired and my eyes start hurting around here.
If you didn't finish coloring it the other day.
When kids are indoors, bright lighting helps.
Blink a few times and then I'll tell you when to hold open.
Canadian optometrists recommend children have at least one eye exam before they start school, then from age 6 onward, have their vision checked annually. Mike Crawley, CBC News, Waterloo, Ontario.
It's back to school and work for many Canadians after the holiday break. And for the nearly 50,000 employees of Amazon in this country, it also means a return to full-time work in the office. And it's not the only employer ending hybrid arrangements this year. Nisha Patel reports.
Amazon employees around the world are heading back to the office 5 days a week. The tech giant is ending its popular post-pandemic policy that allowed staff to work remotely 2 days a week.
People are very upset, and we've signed a few letters and done a few events to try to get more support.
Workers like CJ Felly in Seattle are speaking out. He thinks employees are happier and more productive when they can work from home.
I like the flexibility it provides, and I like that it breaks up the monotony of a workday.
CEO Andy Jassy suggested the change will boost collaboration and company culture, but employees say Amazon hasn't provided data to back that up. Amazon is one of the most high-profile companies to roll back remote work entirely. AT&T and Dell have just made similar moves.
The longer that you've had this hybrid remote experience, the tougher it will be to pivot back to, somewhat of a normal in-office work experience for sure.
Each of the frameworks.
This Calgary fintech firm has had employees back on site for several years.
And we've really felt that, having people in office really helped with their mental health.
About 19% of Canadians currently work mostly from home. That's more than double pre-pandemic levels.
We're seeing fewer options in the market for 100% remote. We're also seeing fewer options in the market that are 100% in an office. So hybrid is definitely becoming the theme for most organizations.
A flexible workplace is a big draw for employees. 44% of Canadian workers surveyed prefer hybrid work.
Well, I think there's an advantage to whatever allows your workforce to be fully engaged. And today, that appears to be a form of hybrid.
Some economists suggest forcing workers back to the office can have serious costs for companies, lowering employee satisfaction and prompting some to quit. Nisha Patel, CBC News, Toronto.
And when we come back, Colette Kennedy will be back with us for more on weather. And we know that tomorrow we're going to see a high of about -3. So those chilly conditions are going to continue, but some sun is in the forecast as well. So stay with us. We will be right back. Colette Kennedy is back with us now for more on weather. And Colette, we know that the cold is going to stay cold, but we'll have some sunshine sprinkled throughout the week, which is nice.
Yeah, we are going to get those at least hours where we get to experience that, maybe even some as soon as tomorrow. So I'll kind of take you through where that hope is. In terms of the cold, though, not a lot we can do about this, and especially when you not only are dealing with the temperatures, the cold air that's in place, but then these strong winds, which really just kind of reinforces everything, right? So the current temperature is -5, -7 for Chatham-Kent, a little milder for Sarnia, and then you see not too far away, -10 there, pushing over towards Kitchener and towards the GTA. But then these winds, the sustained winds here, nearly 25 kilometers an hour. Some of that gusty wind, though, the gusts a bit over 50 kilometers an hour through the day, close to 55. So that really puts the chill in the air. Now, the wind chill's based off of the sustained winds, but you still feel those gusts. So -12 is what it feels like right now, -14 for Chatham-Kent. And then driving that colder air with those strong winds across Lake Huron, we get into some of that lake effect, light snow or flurry activity, sort of bursts of snow at times. One thing this cold air will do is it's moving over the Great Lakes and kind of settling in. And here for a parcel of time, it means all the open water starting to freeze up. And so there won't be as much success for lake effect snow. Synoptic snow, a different story. That's when we actually have systems coming on through. Speaking of one of those, they've been experiencing it. We had some of that information on this storm from the Central Plains to the Mid-Atlantic earlier in the show. And still, they had a bit of a reprieve this afternoon, but D.C. looking at another, say, 5 centimeters coming through into the evening and overnight hours tonight before that one moves away. Back here in Ontario, there's still some lake effect, highly localized though, so that's going to be if you're traveling tomorrow towards the London area, up into snow areas too, like Blue Mountain and towards Collingwood, picking up some additional snow. We do get into some sunshine. Now, for tomorrow, it's in the morning and then clouds increase, and we probably see some of that lake effect coming back, but a better chance at some more significant sun as we get into Wednesday. The northwesterly winds can't really lose, though, so we do have some very breezy conditions for us into tomorrow. Overnight temperature will be -8, but it's, of course, going to feel closer to that -15 or cooler at times. -3 the high tomorrow. The next several days, we're looking at that cold air in place, and then we break a bit towards the end of the week.
Awesome. Thanks so much for that, Colette. And thank you to you all for watching. We will see you back here tomorrow night.
Good night.